Have you ever looked at your own brand, one that felt so fresh just a couple of years ago, and thought, man, this feels dated? Well, today we're going to get into exactly why that happens. We're going to unpack this thing called retrospective aging, and I'm going to give you a super powerful tool, the perpetual identity system, to make sure your brand doesn't just survive time, it completely ignores it. All right, let's get into it. So, our journey starts with this really weird mystery, something you've probably noticed but maybe never put a name to. We're going to call it the yearbook paradox. Seriously, think about it. When you look at old yearbook photos, don't the teenagers just seem weirdly old? It's not just you, I promise. There's this really powerful illusion going on, and if we can understand it, it's the first step to future-proofing your brand. Because the answer isn't really about their faces, it's about the styles they are literally trapped in. Okay, so check out the story of this gym teacher. In 1973, he wore this polyester shirt and these big glasses for his school picture. And then he did it again the next year, and the next, for 40 straight years. He totally accidentally created this perfect living experiment. Yeah, we see him age, of course, but what really dates the photos is the outfit, because it stays frozen in time. So, is this aging thing real, or is it all just an illusion? Well, funny enough, it's a little bit of both. Biologically, we actually are aging slower now. Today's 60-year-old is physically more like a 56-year-old from just a few decades ago. But the biggest factor here isn't our cells at all. It's a stylistic illusion. And the source material has its great name for it, our catch. To really get what a catch is, we need this powerful metaphor, and it's called the stream of identity. Okay, just imagine culture is this fast-moving river. At some point in our lives, we all reach in and we pull out a catch. You know, it could be a hairstyle, a way we talk, or, for our purposes, a brand font. We love it, so we hold on to it, and we kind of wander away from the riverbank. But here's the crucial part. The river just keeps on moving. And eventually, our catch doesn't signal youth anymore, it signals old, simply because the people holding onto it got old. So let's just pause for a second. I want you to take a hard look at your brand's main font. Is it a fish that you caught way back in, say, 2015? Because if it is, I gotta tell you, that cultural river has already flowed far, far downstream. All right, now this is where things get really mind-bending. We're about to connect this whole idea of stylistic aging to, believe it or not, the fundamental laws of physics. Welcome to your brand's black hole. And this brings us to what might just be the most important number you will ever see when you're thinking about branding. It's a concept from astrophysics, and it has a shocking amount to tell us about design. It's called the Schwarzschild radius. In physics, it's basically the point of no return. Get this, if you could somehow compress the entire Earth down to the size of a single peanut, its density would become so unbelievably immense that its gravity would be strong enough to trap light itself. It would become a black hole. This is the math behind it. All you need to know is that as an object's mass becomes incredibly dense, its gravitational pull becomes absolute. It creates what's called a singularity, a point where time itself effectively stops. And, crazy as it sounds, your brand can do the exact same thing. So here's the translation for us. When you compress way too many current trends into your brand, you know, the specific drop shadow from this year, the exact gradient that's hot this month, you are dramatically increasing its trend density. And eventually, you hit a point where the gravity of the year it was made is so strong that your brand's message can never escape. You've literally created a brand black hole, a singularity of style. Okay, so if chasing every trend is the trop, how in the world do we escape the black hole? Well, the answer comes from this mysterious figure from 1941 and what I like to call the time traveler's secret. You might have seen this famous photo before. It's from the reopening of the South Fork Bridge in British Columbia. For years, people online were convinced this guy had to be a time traveler. And why? Because he just looked so modern. But the real truth is way simpler and honestly, a lot more powerful. He wasn't from the future, he was just casual. And this illustrates the point perfectly. Look at the high fashion of 1941. The suits, the fedoras, that stuff is deeply locked into its era. It has a super high trend density. But the man's knit sweater and sunglasses? They're casual. The source calls them indeterminate. Because they don't belong specifically to 1941, they don't look dated to us now. His style literally ignores time. So let's just quickly recap the secret here. High trend density makes your brand age instantly. But a more casual, indeterminate design, well, that is the secret to time travel. Okay, so we've dug into the problem, we've looked at the principle behind the solution. Now let's get to the practical, actionable stuff. Let's build your perpetual identity system. Now, before we jump into the checklist, there's this really powerful psychological thing we need to understand. Think of it like a reverse Dorian Gray effect. You know the story, right? The portrait aged while the man stayed young. Well, in reality, studies show we actually subconsciously grow to fit the expectations of our names. The same thing is true for brands. A brand's face, its visuals, will start to match the expectations of its name or its values. Just keep that in mind as we go through this checklist.
So here it is. This is the deliverable, your checklist for a timeless brand. Number 1, the 50-year mirror. Could this font or color have existed 50 years ago? If the answer is yes, it's probably timeless. 2, the casual filter. You have to actively remove one trendy element every 6 months. Be disciplined. 3, the indeterminate palette. Use what the source calls vaporous colors, ones not tied to a specific era of tech. And finally, number 4, the name face audit. Does your brand's face, its visuals, truly match its name, its core values? Or are you creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of just looking old?
And I want you to try this right now. Seriously, open your website, look at the buttons, the gradients, the corner radiuses. If you can pinpoint the exact year it was designed just by looking at those things, you are already inside the event horizon of a brand black hole. Let's end on a slightly bigger thought here. You know how the universe is expanding? Well, if you imagine a bunch of dots on the surface of a balloon while it's being inflated, it doesn't matter which dot you're on. It always looks like you are the center and everything else is moving away from you. Your brand is just like one of those dots. You are the center of your own universe. And the question that this all leads to is a really simple one. It's the one you need to ask yourself after all this. Is your brand actively ignoring time, or is it just stuck in it?